Does this look normal to you? Then you're probably doing it wrong. But don't worry, help is on the way. In this video, we'll take a look at camera settings in Sims and give you all the tools you need to get this part of your life back in order. What's up everybody and welcome to the Sim Channel. Yes, I'm aware there's a bunch of good sim racing FOV videos out there already, and I'll link a few in the description. But there are a few aspects to this topic that I feel have not yet gotten the attention they deserve. This video will be a bit more technical and less about the supposed effects of good camera settings that I feel have been covered enough in other videos before. So let's get into it, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll be all set to join the FOV police. The field of view, or FOV, is the viewing angle of the in-game camera and should ideally be set to match the viewing angle you have of the picture on your physical screen. To illustrate this, let's have a look at what happens when it isn't, or in other words, what we get if we squeeze a wide in-game field of view into a much narrower one on the screen. One thing we notice is that the width and height of the car in front of us is reduced while its length is maintained. This distortion makes it more difficult to correctly judge the position of your car relative to other objects in the world, such as curbs, walls, and other cars, and makes it more difficult to place the car exactly where you want it. The next turn may seem miles away when it's already time to hit the brakes. As a consequence, your lap times and safety rating may suffer from a wrong FOV setting, and it also gets in the way of immersion. Of course, the sense of speed is higher with a wider field of view, but it comes at a pretty steep cost. What you want to achieve is for the bezel of your monitor to act like a window frame into the virtual world with a 1:1 scale and all angles being maintained. To calculate the correct field of view setting for your setup, you first need to know the size and aspect ratio of your screen and measure the distance of your eyes from the screen. You can then either put those numbers in an FOV calculator, links in the description, or do the math yourself. Or you can use the ultimate FOV table brought to you by the Sim Channel. You'll find the link in the description below. One thing that's helpful to know is that some games use the vertical field of view, that is, the angle between your eyes and the top and bottom of your screen, while others use the horizontal field of view, which is the angle between your eyes and the left and right edges of your screen. And then there's a few weird ones that use different measures, for which you're gonna have to look up the conversion factor. Anyway, let's quickly go through the math. Let's say our eyes are at a distance v away from a screen with a diagonal d. To get the correct field of view setting, we first need the width and/or height of the screen depending on whether we want to calculate the vertical or horizontal field of view. You can measure that with a tape measure or calculate it from the diagonal and aspect ratio of your screen. To calculate it, use either Pythagoras or trigonometry. I'm putting the calculations on screen so that you can reproduce them with your numbers. Now that we have the height and width of our screen, let's calculate our horizontal field of view, which in this illustration is 2 times alpha. We get alpha by taking the arctangent of half the screen's width w divided by our distance from the screen v. Multiply alpha by 2 for your correct horizontal field of view setting. For the vertical field of view, it works in exactly the same way, using the height of the screen instead of its width. And to everybody who fell asleep during this section, you can wake up now, math class is over. On a triple screen setup, if all 3 of your screens are the same size, and you have the center of the screens pointing directly at your eyes, you'll have the same field of view for all 3 screens, so the calculation remains the same. Theoretically, all that needs to be done should be to set the correct viewing angle for the additional left and right cameras in-game. Unfortunately, not all games have proper support for triples built in, but that won't be our concern in this video. If you're using VR, the FOV should be set to the correct values for your HMD automatically, and you don't need to worry about it. But wait, there's more! The camera's viewing angle isn't the only thing that should be set up correctly. The one setting that for some reason many even seasoned sim racers apparently don't really care about is the correct height of the horizon. It should be common sense that the horizon on a sphere should be slightly below eye level, but how far below? To answer this, yeah. So here's the Earth and here's us. For the purpose of this illustration, I made us relatively tall, but we'll use more realistic numbers in the calculation. Well then, how far below our eye level is the horizon? The horizon is found by placing a tangent to the Earth that goes through our eyes. Thus, how far we can see and how far below eye level the horizon is depends on the radius of the Earth and how far above the Earth's surface our eyes are positioned. Ultimately, we're looking for this angle and we'll name it alpha. Let's construct a triangle between the center of the Earth, our eyes, and the horizon with, of course, a right angle at the horizon. We'll call this angle beta, and we see that alpha and this angle are the same since both are 90 degrees minus beta. We can thus calculate alpha by taking the arc cosine of r divided by r plus x. Let's say the Earth has a radius of 6,371 kilometers and our eyes are 1 meter above the ground while seated in a race car. The resulting angle alpha is 0.032 degrees, so about 1/30th of a degree. Now, if your screen is 1 meter away from your eyes, this 1/30th of a degree translates to half a millimeter. That's how far below eye level the horizon should be, or in other words, just set it to eye level. To get it there, you'll have to adjust the camera pitch setting in-game if the game has a pitch setting. And if it doesn't, just send an angry email to the game's publisher. Or Google how to set it up. Back on topic, why is it important to have the horizon placed correctly? To be honest, I don't think this is going to make it much faster, but it's just really weird to look up at the screen like the first row in the cinema and still look down on the hood of your virtual car. Just don't do that. To be fair, I realize that the correct FOV settings aren't always an option. You may have installed your screen on top of your wheelbase so that your eye level is almost at the bottom of the screen, and putting the horizon to that level might take parts of the road out of the frame. In that case, you may want to place your screen behind the wheelbase to set it lower and get the horizon in the correct position, but that's also not always an option. Or your screen may be rather small or far away and there is nothing you can do about it. In that case, it makes sense to set the FOV to a reasonably low value that still allows you to see what you need to see, even if it's not the quote-unquote correct FOV setting. Being just a few degrees off isn't really all that dramatic. Of course, if you're racing in a living room setup with the screen a few meters away from you, there's just not a lot you can do unless you can get closer to the screen. If that doesn't work, VR could be an option. And with that said, I hope you learned something useful today. Now pull out that tape measure and calculator, punch those numbers in, and get right into your favorite sim to be amazed at the difference that a correct FOV setting can make. Or, if your FOV is already set up correctly, join the FOV police and shame other sim racers into rethinking their camera settings while enjoying your intellectual superiority. This video will also serve as your way of handing out a ticket to anybody you see committing an FOV violation online. Just put a link to this vid wherever you see a wrong FOV setting, with no further explanation required. But first, hit like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check out the Sim Channel on Instagram for some behind-the-scenes stuff and to keep up to date with what I'm up to. You'll find a link in the description below. And that'll be it for today. I hope you have a wonderful time and see you in the next video.